What do you get when you combine a radical domestic terrorist, a misguided wannabe gangster, and a retired civil rights activist? You get the Boondocks. That's right. Today we're going to be covering the entire story of the Freeman family. From appearing to defend R. Kelly,
so I can pee in the toilet and it's okay. But if I pee on a person, it's like not okay.
Right up to defending themselves against an evil clone.
Listen to me. We don't have to make the same mistake. We can learn. We're not Granddad.
Just a heads up, this one's a bit more intense than our usual recaps, so if you're not in the mood for that, feel free to check out something else for now. Alright, let's begin. Created by Aaron Magruder in the 90s as a webcomic, the idea eventually grew into a TV show that first premiered in 2005. Set in the fictional, predominantly white suburb Woodcrest, our main characters, who were raised in the hood, were brought here by their granddad in order to make sure they were given a safe life, which ironically didn't make a whole difference. Let's meet some of the characters. First up, we have 10-year-old Huey Freeman, a left-wing radical and domestic terrorist. As the moral compass of the show, this martial arts-loving revolutionist will fight to speak the truth about the plight against African Americans in American society, even if no one will listen. His younger 8-year-old brother, Riley Freeman, is a wannabe gangster, idolizing the rapper lifestyle and culture, and represented as an example of misguided black youth. Possessing a street-smart attitude, Riley will always speak the truth about people and the world around him. By speaking the truth, I mean calling everyone and everything gay. The legal guardian of Huey and Riley is their granddad, Robert Jebediah Granddad Freeman. Back in his day, Robert was a prominent figure in the civil rights movement, having sat next to Rosa Parks on the bus, and was the only one who remembered to bring a raincoat when everyone else got sprayed with fire hoses. Nowadays, he spends his days trying to get dates with the beautiful woman and punishing his grandkids with his belt. And of course, who could forget the show's main antagonist, Uncle Ruckus? No relation. With his grotesque appearance, glass eye, and self-hating persona, Ruckus is a proud supporter of white supremacy, arguing black people were better off when they were enslaved. He claims he is a white man himself, but suffers from revitiligo, a rare disease that turns white skin black. Basically, the opposite of what Michael Jackson had. There are many more characters to introduce, and we'll meet them along the way, but with that said, grab your nunchucks and let's dive right into the radical world of the Boondocks. The show's first episode, The Garden Party, begins with Huey having another dream where he makes the white people riot after telling the truth. Jesus was black, Ronald Reagan was the devil, and the government is lying about 9/11. Later that day, Robert is visited by Edward Ed Rothschild Wunsler Sr., the man who owns the bank that owns his house. He's here because as the family who founded Woodcrest 170 years ago, it's his duty to make sure everyone that lives here is capable of coexisting into this tightly knit community, or as he puts it, family.
Like you associate with any Muslims, Arabs, people of terrorist descent?
Well?
Ed then invites Robert, Huey, and Riley to a garden party for his grandson, Edward Ed Wunsler III, who just got back from Iraq, which will give Robert a chance to meet the neighbors. Robert accepts and instructs Huey and Riley to behave themselves and not embarrass him in front of his new neighbors. Upon arriving, they meet Wunsler's valet, Uncle Ruckus, who only helps the other white guests, assuming Robert and the kids are here like all the other black folks that come to the Wunsler estate.
Security, we got a cold black at the main gate.
The party is as high class and white as you can get, with guests being served finger sandwiches while listening to the classiest classical music. They are introduced to Ed, a wannabe white boy gangster, who impresses Riley with his life in Iraq, and later shows him his gun collection. Huey tries to tell the people the truth, but nobody cares enough to take him seriously on account of being too rich to care. While Uncle Ruckus serenades everyone with his new, racist song, Ed has Riley shoot him with a shotgun while wearing a bulletproof vest. The blast knocks him out the window and he lives, but Riley is in a lot of trouble. Robert tries to apologize to Ed about everything, but Ed is well aware of how much of an idiot his grandson is, foretelling that one day he will be the President of the United States. They toast to the new friendship, bonding over how hard it is to deal with their own grandkids. In the episode, The Trial trial of R. Kelly. R. Kelly is on trial for peeing on another girl. The prosecuting lawyer is Tom Dubois, who is one of the Freeman's neighbors. Tom is married to Sarah Dubois, and they have a mixed daughter named Jasmine, who has somewhat of a romantic interest in Huey. Despite not being a fan of R. Kelly, Riley confronts Tom, saying R. Kelly did nothing wrong, arguing the girl who got peed on is just as guilty as R. Kelly.
I see piss coming, I move. She saw piss coming, she stayed.
Yeah, she did,
And why
but-
should I have to miss out on the next R. Kelly album just for that?
Huey and Riley arrive at the courthouse where they see protesters demand R. Kelly be freed, while only a few actually want him guilty. Riley manages to get on camera, arguing that he never hurt anyone, when Huey tries to silence him. The protesters see Huey trying to silence Riley, and it sparks a riot between both sides, until R. Kelly shows up, voicing his love for the people uniting to stand with him during this injustice. Before the trial, Huey warns Tom that if he lets justice be served, black folks will riot, but Tom reassures him that he has everything under control. During the trial, Tom stands behind the mountain of evidence proving R. Kelly is guilty, but R. Kelly's defense lawyer calls all this evidence a racist attack against him. Tom puts this accusation to rest by playing the tape that shows him peeing on the blurred out girl, in which R. Kelly makes it very clear it's him in the video, even giving his social security number to some random person on the phone. The girl in question is then called to the stand and asked to describe the events that took place. She casually admits that she wanted to be peed on, proving Riley was right. R. Kelly's defense attorney attacks Tom, saying he turned his back on his black community by marrying a white woman. Therefore, he doesn't love his sisters like R. Kelly does. He continues to make justice obsolete, and Tom can't believe the jury doesn't want to find him guilty. Huey tries to talk some sense into the people, but all they want to do is dance to R. Kelly's music. R. Kelly is freed, and Huey blames it on the white man. In the episode that started the show's greatest rivalry, Robert is dancing to his New Shoes song when his soon-to-be nemesis, blind Colonel H. Stinkmeaner, almost runs him and the boys over with his car. He also damaged Robert's car Dorothy, and Robert wants him to pay for it. Stinkmeaner refuses to, wrapping themselves in an infamous ethnic brawl. It's called something else in the show, but we don't want to get in trouble. Stinkmeaner then steps on Robert's new shoes, prompting Robert to fight Stinkmeaner. However, he loses a fight to a blind man and is forced to suffer humiliation from Riley. Huey tries to cheer his granddad up, but he is constantly reminded and humiliated by his loss that he drives back to the mall to confront Stinkmeaner. Somehow, they come to an agreement and schedule a rematch in 2 weeks. Huey, being an expert in kung fu, trains Robert to fight Stinkmeaner, while Riley creates an unnecessary hype for the fight. The fight draws a big crowd, and Huey reminds him one last time that he doesn't even have to fight at all. After all, the majority of these moments result in both men getting executed by the police. During the fight, Huey remembers back to the first fight and realizes Stinkmeaner was just someone who got lucky. He tries to stop the fight, but Robert is so enraged that he accidentally kills Stinkmeaner. Robert is arrested, but thanks to Huey and Tom, they get him released through a legal loophole. Robert is forever guilty for taking his life, but will forever be haunted by Stinkmeaner. In A Date with the Health Inspector, it's revealed that Tom's greatest fear is being violated in prison after watching a prison movie when he was a kid. Since then, Tom has never committed a crime for fear of ending up in prison. Kind of ironic given he's a prosecuting attorney. However, he's a black man, so it's very easy for him to be sent to prison, and he eventually ends up being falsely accused of murder. Tom calls Huey and begs him to find the real killer before he is transferred to prison that night. Despite being only 10, he promises a blubbering Tom he'll find the real killer. Huey and Riley will enlist the help of Ed, who introduces them to his friend Gin Rummy, who's just as much of a wannabe gangster as Ed.
What?
Say what again? Say what again? I dare you. I double dare you.
They arrive at the area where the murder took place and question people on what happened, while Ed and Gin hold everyone at gunpoint and threaten to kill them. Huey finds out who the real murderer is, but Ed and Gin decide to stop at the gas station for some drinks first. When they refuse to pay, they point their weapons at the unarmed gas station attendant, saying he has a gun. A cop in the store has a hard time knowing who to point his gun at. The two men pointing guns at an unarmed man man or a guy who looks like a terrorist. They demand he hands over the invisible weapon when his terrorist brothers come out from the back room, guns blazing. The cop is injured in the crossfire more than once, and Huey and Riley are forced to do nothing as Tom is charged for a crime he didn't commit. Luckily, the murderer killed someone else while Tom was in jail, so he's free to go. And Ed and Jin are dubbed heroes for taking down terrorists. God bless America. After beefing with another rapper, which resulted in both of them getting shot, Riley's idol, Gangstalicious, gets shot again on stage while performing his new hit song, I Got Shot.
I got shot! I got shot! No, I got shot for real!
Talk about irony. Riley wants to go to the hospital to protect Gangstalicious, but Robert won't let him because it's too dangerous. Riley then tries to injure himself just enough to warrant a trip to the hospital, but Robert still won't allow it. It's only after Riley drinks all of Robert's precious orange juice that he finally allows him to go to the store and back to get more OJ. Naturally, Riley goes to the hospital instead and finds Gangstalicious. They bond right away, but Gangstalicious becomes scared when Riley tells him there's no cops or hospital security guarding his room. Suddenly, 3 gangsters show up looking for Gangstalicious and chase Riley when they see him. Riley tricks the gangsters into searching the wrong floor, and Riley warns Gangstalicious his life is in danger. They try making their way out of the hospital without being seen, but Uncle Ruckus, working as a janitor at the hospital, tells the gangsters where they are. They start shooting, and Gangstalicious reveals he's a fraud and not the tough rapper he led on to be, disappointing Riley. They steal a car and a car chase ensues. They both crash and the gangsters lock Gangstalicious and Riley in their trunk. They drive them out to the middle of nowhere, strip Gangstalicious naked, and Riley finally understands what Gangstalicious's hit song Thug in Love finally means.
I got that thug in love. I've got.
Brokenhearted over Gangstalicious not wanting him, the head gangster tells Gangstalicious to start walking, and they shoot him. But somehow, they all missed at point-blank range, and Gangstalicious runs away naked. Talk about irony. Christmas has come to Woodcrest, and Riley kicks off the holidays by resurrecting his usual beef with Santa by throwing a chair at the mall Santa's head and beating him with a golf club. See, Riley is mad at Santa for not giving him car rims some years back, and since then has vowed to assault him until he gives him what he owes. Meanwhile, Huey's teacher wants to have him direct the school's Christmas play, and he only agrees to do it if it means he gets in writing that he gets full creative control. Huey, being one who loves to speak the truth, knows Christmas was a pagan holiday that was so vulgar it was banned by the Protestant church until the 1800s. When he tells Robert this, he puts him to sleep with his eyes open and gives Huey an idea on how to make the truth more entertaining. He takes his job way too seriously, even hiring the Quincy Jones and firing the entire cast when they were partying on the job.
Do I look like Charlie Brown?
No.
Do I look like Charlie Brown?
Riley tries another hit on Santa, but Uncle Ruckus is there to do a "Get down, Mr. President," as Santa makes his escape using children and adults as human shields. Huey blows the school's budget trying to hire a new cast and crew, even going so far as to try to get the big-name stars like Denzel Washington and Angela Bassett to star in the play. Huey's teacher can't do a thing because of the contract they already signed. He continues to work tirelessly in order to set a new standard for school Christmas plays. Things get out of hand when the principal demands Huey not make Jesus black, even tearing up his contract when Huey refuses to agree to his demands. Back at the mall, no one else wanted to be Santa, so the only person the mall could hire to be Santa after all the attacks was Uncle Ruckus.
Ho, 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 look at my belly shake. The Heartbreaker Revitaligo with a very serious life-threatening condition.
Naturally, no one wants to sit on Uncle Ruckus's lap, ruining Jasmine's image of Santa. Quincy Jones gives Huey some advice on show business, and Huey asks his teacher to take his name off of the play, since it's no longer his vision. Riley tells Jasmine there's no such thing as Santa, prompting her to cry. Uncle Ruckus sees her crying and informs her that she's a special agent working for Santa, revealing they knew Riley would try and take his revenge on Santa, so they have several doubles pose as Santa for for protection. It's also revealed that Riley's teacher convinced the principal to not change a thing, and the play was incredible. However, no one saw it because all the parents of the kids who didn't get to see their kids perform were boycotting the play. Riley finds out Uncle Ruckus works for Santa and makes sure he gives Santa a warning, saying he's coming for him until he gives him what he owes. It's no secret Robert loves his car Dorothy a lot, maybe even more than his grandkids. And in the episode The Real, Riley gets an idea on how to pimp his ride, just so he can have a good-looking car. He sends a tearful plea to Exhibit, a rapper that pimps out cars for his reality TV show, and it works. However, Riley told them that Robert was blind on account of him wearing sunglasses all of the time that make him look like Bill Cosby, so he has to lie about being disabled. It was the only reason they agreed to do this. Robert objects to this at first, but when Riley tells him hot bitches love pimped out cars, he changes his mind. Huey can't stand all of this lying and goes off by himself, where he's approached by a mysterious secret agent. He reveals he knows everything about Huey, hinting at a possible partnership, and then disappears. Was Huey imagining him? Meanwhile, word gets out about Robert being blind, so Extreme Makeover Home Edition offers to give the Freeman home a makeover. Huey warns them that they are going to destroy the house, but Riley convinces Robert to let them, saying they'll make it 5 times bigger. Room for more. Sure enough, they end up destroying the house to the point where it is barely standing. But then, Robert is informed that his car is ready. The car is revealed, and Robert sees how incredible it looks and can't stop gushing over it, exposing that he's not actually blind. Exhibit and the home makeover crew leave, disappointed that they were lied to. However, they felt bad, so they let them keep the car, but they still charged them for the upgrade. The house is still a mess, so they have to live out in the fancy car until they figure out how to fix the house. The secret agent reveals himself again to Huey, and Huey dubs him the White Shadow. He tells him that if he ever wants to talk, they're always listening. According to this show, Martin Luther King Jr. survived the assassination attempt, but fell into a coma. 32 years later, he's awoken and discovered just how messed up the world and his message has become. His view of peace aren't very popular in the post-9/11 era, and he is dubbed a traitor and unpatriotic. Huey finds him at a book signing that no one shows up to, and Robert invites King over for dinner. Turns out they knew each other back during the civil rights movement. In the parking lot, Uncle Ruckus tries to throw a brick at King, just like he did back then.
I'd have shot you myself, but I realized the white man got better.
Fed up with how messed up black people have become, King gives up trying to fight for freedom and justice, until Huey convinces him to keep trying. Huey gives him the idea to create a new political party, the first black political party, giving him pointers on how to appeal to modern media. But King remains true to his message of peace, not resorting to violence or aggression, until King comes up with the idea to use an urban promoter to get the word out about their party. But it makes everyone think they are promoting an actual party, not a political one. King has finally had enough of what black people have become. He calls them all the N-word.
And I know some of you don't want to hear me say that word.
He condemns black culture and all it's become ever since he was shot, and decides to become a Canadian. Before leaving, he thanks Huey for everything, telling him to do what he can. The episode ends with people resurrecting the civil rights movement and Oprah being predicted president in 2020. At this point, anything's better than that pandemic. Speaking of Oprah, after robbing a bank in an embarrassing fashion, Ed and Jin have been looking for a way to redeem themselves, so they decide to nab Oprah, because whoever has control over Oprah has control over women.
Control over women is control over.
Huey doesn't approve of Riley spending so much time with Ed and Jin, given how much of a bad influence they are, and promising to take him down if he catches Riley with them again. Regardless, Riley helps them nab Oprah, but they end up nabbing Maya Angelou amidst all the unnecessary shooting and tear gas. They toss her out of the van and drive away. Huey finds out what they did and confronts Riley, but he pleads ignorance. Huey then finds Riley's notebook detailing their next attempt to kidnap trap Oprah and goes after them with his black power fist. Riley sees Huey coming and alerts the guards to think Huey is the real threat. He comes face to face with Oprah's world-renowned bodyguard, Bushido Brown, and is forced to fight him. With Brown distracted, Riley, Ed, and Jin infiltrate the studio Oprah is in, but accidentally break into Bill Cosby's dressing room instead. Fed up with how incompetent Ed and Jin are, Riley leaves. But Huey finds Riley in the parking lot and gives him the whooping he promised him. The episode Riley Was Here opens with Riley graffitiing a house with the words, "Riley was here." The mysterious man catches Riley, but instead of scolding him or calling the cops, he encourages Riley and helps him improve his artwork. However, the cops end up catching him in the end, but Riley says some white man encouraged him to do it.
Is the cop here for me or Riley?
Wait, why would he be here for you?
No reason?
Robert enrolls Riley in art lessons, where his art teacher turns out to be the mysterious man from before. Riley objects to being here, and this teacher tells Riley he's free to go when he draws one picture during each lesson. Riley casually draws something and begins to leave when his teacher goads Riley into drawing something better. The next session, Riley puts his heart and soul into his next piece, but the teacher throws it away, knowing Riley got the idea off of his website. So Riley draws something for real this time, and the teacher is finally impressed. He encourages Riley to paint a mural, but not paint something people would expect him to paint. They graffiti a house, this time painting a sophisticated bowl of fruit, but the teacher instructs Riley to not sign his name, because an artist that's done his job well doesn't need to sign his name. People are blown away by the artwork, but Riley is disappointed no one knows he did it. So he decides to ambiguously sign his next artwork, but then several other people sign it, taking credit too. Riley has had enough and reveals himself to be the artist, but no one believes him because there's no such thing as a good black artist.
Master Van Gogh, Master Picasso, that genius that drawed that comic script with the talking penguin.
What? Determined to prove everyone wrong, he enlists the help of his teacher to paint one more painting, but the cops catch them. The teacher shows off his driving skills as the cops chase them. He allows Riley to escape while the cops continue chasing after him. Meanwhile, Robert awakens to see Riley graffitied his house with a picture of he and his deceased wife on their wedding day. Despite shedding tears, he tells Riley to clean it off. Oh well, it's nice to know Riley has a heart. In an episode that parodies the film Do the Right Thing, Jasmine opens up a lemonade stand during a heat wave. Meanwhile, Uncle Ruckus gets shot at 118 times when the police mistake his wallet and backup wallet for a gun. Huey is the only one not affected by the heat, wearing a winter coat and adding that the heat makes people do crazy things.
Huey Freeman, you're the only person I know who can take a beautiful day like this and turn it into a problem.
Jasmine's profitable, cute business gains the attention of Onceler, who sells her out, promising to give her a pony. Huey warns Jasmine of the dangers of what she just did, but Jasmine is so innocent she doesn't understand. Jasmine signs the contract and learns very quickly the harsh reality of business as she is forced to slave away in her lemonade stand now owned by Onceler. On the bright side, Uncle Ruckus gets to fulfill his lifelong dream of being a police officer as an apology for getting shot 118 times.
And I hope to harass and beat each and every black person I see with a green prejudice.
Great idea!
Thank you very much.
Tom tries to convince Onceler to let Jasmine out of the contract, but Onceler informs Jasmine that if she leaves the pony, she will be euthanized, as all the money Jasmine makes here is being used to keep the animal alive. So Jasmine keeps working, despite how much the work is killing her. Huey comes to her aid with a bunch of hippies protesting against child labor, but then Huey learns the hard way just how useless hippies are when it comes to taking action. Onceler arrives in a carriage pulled by ponies, and to avoid being sued for child labor, he reveals he designed his own lemonade stand that guarantees it was made without any sort of cruelty. Jasmine demands to see her pony, only to discover it never existed, nor would she have been able to afford it with the money she earned from the stand, and now in fact owes Onceler $300. Onceler accepts the money and terminates their partnership, and a riot ensues as people demand lemonade. Huey has had enough, so with Jasmine's permission, he throws a trash can at the stand, starting a fire.
Gun!
Ow! 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 excellent use of a baton, officer.
Luckily, a cloud rolls in and it starts snowing. The violence stops and Huey offers a shivering Jasmine his scarf, having already been prepared for when the sanity returns. In The Passion of Reverend Ruckus, Ruckus receives a vision from Ronald Reagan where he blesses him with a glimpse of white heaven, as God created many separate but equal heavens in order to account for all the different races. Reagan tells Ruckus that if he teaches everyone to love the white man, he too will be accepted into white heaven, proving anything is possible by giving Ruckus what he's always wanted: healthy white skin. Ruckus goes to the doctor, who tells him that he has cancer, giving him 6 months to live, and he couldn't be happier. He invites Robert to hear all about the blessed and amazing white Caucasian Jesus Christ, and that he can only save thyself by hating thyself. Robert tells Ruckus he's really gone crazy for real this time, but Ruckus is so overwhelmed by the power of the white Holy Spirit and starts gaining a following. He gains the attention of Armstrong Elder, a black conservative, who offers Ruckus an opportunity to expand his religious white supremacy message. With his help, Ruckus is able to share his white, God-fearing message in his best-selling books and on the news. He then holds a tent revival, where he calls black people to come forward so he can heal black people of their blackness. He then calls for everyone to do the same, starting a fight between his congregation. As the people fight, Ruckus prays for them and himself, praising his message of injustice and white supremacy, adding that if his message doesn't in fact come from the mouth of God himself, then let him be struck by lightning. Suddenly, Ruckus is struck by lightning. His congregation abandons him, and the lightning bolt miraculously cured him of his cancer. Hallelujah! Season 2 begins with a fake movie trailer for Soul Plane 2, The Blackjacking, and everyone is hyped to see it in theaters except Huey, as the last time they went to the theater, they got arrested. Jasmine is invited to go with them, but she informs them her dad won't let her see it because of all of the stereotypes in the film. Robert has no idea what she's talking about and encourages her to lie about what film she's going to see.
This is going to be the worst day of your life. I'm bringing nunchucks.
They arrive at the movie theater, and Jasmine learns how the Freemans might have gotten arrested last time they were here. Robert has everyone smuggle in food in large trench coats and sneak their way into the theater without paying. Let's be real, with how expensive tickets and food at the movie theater is now, we should all be doing this. Jasmine, having always been a good person, starts freaking out because she's never broken the law before, let alone never lied to anyone. She really is Tom's daughter. Riley didn't bring the popcorn, so Robert is forced to buy some and throws a tantrum when he has to butter his own popcorn. Ruckus, who's working as an usher there, figures out Robert never paid to get in and he runs away. He loses them and gets back to his seat to find Jasmine crying, saying she wants to go home but Robert won't let her. Huey feels bad for Jasmine, so he sneaks into the projector room to turn off the movie. He accidentally trips off an alarm and security chases him since he left his nunchucks in the bathroom. Meanwhile, Jasmine has learned to embrace breaking the law, but is caught by Ruckus when Robert and Riley bailed on her. Huey fights off security with a broken janitor's broom and is forced to fight Ruckus, who found his nunchucks in the bathroom. In the parking lot, Robert feels bad for abandoning Huey and Jasmine and decides to turn himself in despite Riley's objections. They all learned a valuable lesson: just download the movie illegally online. Remember Stinkmeaner? Well, it turns out ever since he died, he's been kicking and taking names, proving himself worthy to Satan in a weird Asian-like hell. He grants Stinkmeaner's soul be sent back to the world of the living to exact vengeance on the Freemans and rain hell on the black community. Huey tells Robert that he had a dream Stinkmeaner was coming back, but Robert is more preoccupied with taking exploitative pictures of himself after Riley introduced him to online dating. Meanwhile, someone steals Tom's parking spot, creating a potential ethnic brawl. Tom reacts like a white person would in this situation, when suddenly Stinkmeaner possesses Tom's body and brutally attacks the man. Stinkmeaner then leaves Tom when it is all done, and Tom has no idea what just happened. The same thing happens when Tom is prosecuting an old lady, making a fool of himself and the courtroom, jeopardizing his job. Stinkmeaner finally gains total control of Tom's body and tries to attack Robert with his pants down, literally. Stinkmeaner chases Robert with an axe through his house until Huey and Riley join the fight, tossing Robert his belt. An epic fight ensues until Riley knocks Tom out with a geisha figurine. They tie Tom up and call an exorcist from the Catholic Church, and of course, it turns out to be Uncle Ruckus. Exorcising a black person requires different tools, such as a whip, a rope, a nightstick, and a job application. They begin hitting and whipping him, trying to get Stinkmeaner out, but it's not working. It's not until the Force Ghost of Ghostface Killa helps Huey figure out the only way to resolve this particular moment: synthesis. It works, and Stinkmeaner is exorcised and banished back to hell, but not before promising he will be back. The Freemans are getting a new neighbor, Thugnificent, who is another one of Riley's idols, and he is rolling up in style. He comes bringing the hood to this predominantly white neighborhood, as well as the party celebrity lifestyle, and Robert is not having it. One night, Riley sneaks into one of Thugnificent's loud parties and befriends Thugnificent, becoming a member of his crew, Lethal Interjection. Huey finds Riley and tries to get him to leave, but Thugnificent is convinced his place is kid-friendly.
Word, oh yeah, man, you know, it's good, homie. Word, you know what I mean? You know that reading. You know what I mean?
Robert wakes the next morning and finds his yard and house trashed from the party, and files a complaint against Thugnificent. Thugnificent finds out and declares war on Robert. Furious, one of his own kind would betray him. He then releases a new hit song called F Granddad, in which he insults Robert and paints himself as the victim. In retaliation, Robert makes his own song that insults Thugnificent, though his rapping skills are a bit lacking.
Was too. You wanna be like Thugnificent? Don't go to school, fool.
On the news, we discover that several fans of Thugnificent's music have been inspired to assault old people who look a lot like Robert, leading to people boycotting Thugnificent's music. Robert and Thugnificent finally listen to Huey's advice, which involves them sitting down and talking things out like rational adults, but even that is challenging for them. After enough yelling, Huey convinces them to agree to no more diss records, and Thugnificent remarks to the camera crew documenting his story that he made Robert his. Robert keeps having bad luck with his online dating life, as every beautiful woman turns out to be anything but, until finally he meets someone named Luna, who matches her beautiful picture. Robert lets her stay the whole weekend, and despite the two of them hitting it off great, Huey is convinced something isn't right. Over dinner, Luna reveals she lives with 50 wolves and knows the deadliest style of kung fu. She also reveals she participated in the Kumite and was forced to kill her opponents in order to win.
I'm all right.
Realizing this woman is crazy, Huey and Riley help Robert create an alibi, saying he had to go out of town suddenly to support his family. But he doesn't stick to the script and creates a convoluted alibi about planning Fidel Castro's birthday party. Ironically, it works, until Luna's friend Nicole confirms Fidel's birthday isn't for another month. Luna is beyond furious Robert lied to her, just like all the other men she's dated. She locks Huey and Riley in their room and ties Robert up, holding him at gunpoint. She's gone crazy, demanding to know why Robert lied to her, threatening to shoot him unless he tells the truth. Luckily, Tom comes by after getting an email from Huey warning him about Luna, but she easily defeats him. She then tells her sad life story about how she was abused and mistreated in every relationship she was ever in. Robert and Tom gave her solid relationship advice, but all it does is make her want to blow herself up with a grenade. Robert convinces her to take responsibility for her own action, and she frees them. However, she doesn't learn how to take responsibility and ends up blowing herself up anyways. In The S Word, Riley's teacher gets in trouble for calling Riley the N-word. Riley's teacher, Mr. Petto, claims Riley was saying worse things to him, so he just reciprocated the insult like every teacher like him has been trained to do, adding that black people sometimes use the N-word in a positive way. The superintendent denies this, saying they are not allowed to say the actual N-word, but N-word instead, just like they say instead of the S-word. Riley and Robert see this as an opportunity to capitalize on their restitution, because things always turn out great for black people that get called the N-word unjustly by white people. Tom hears Mr. Petto's case and tells Robert there's not a good chance of people taking this seriously. That is until activist/hustler Reverend Rollo Goodlove convinces everyone to take action against Mr. Petto, secretly trying to gain press for his upcoming sitcom. Rollo assures Robert that he would be able to get $500,000 in restitution, but the superintendent doesn't take him seriously when he presents the number to him. So they appear on the Larry King Show to discuss this injustice, but Rollo spends the majority of the time promoting his new sitcom. Ann Coulter gets involved and defends Mr. Peto, saying it's about time someone stood up to these gang members and thugs. The debate goes on forever, with no guarantee of getting paid anytime soon. To no surprise, Rollo and Ann reveal they've been working together, revealing they lie and swindle their way through everything, saying and publishing whatever for the money. In the end, the Freemans don't get any restitution money, despite trying to stage a fake protest, which does result in Rollo getting some money, not them. Robert is certain he and his grandkids are related to the greatest black person that ever lived, Catcher Freeman, a man who rebelled against slavery and a plantation owner, Colonel George Lynchwater. Huey and Riley believe this is one of Granddad's tall tales in which he tries to prove they are related to every famous black person from Jackie Robinson to Obama. So, he tells them the story again. Robert paints Catcher as a dark knight in the shadows, whose tale is full of heroism, romance, betrayal, and the decapitation of Lynchwater. In his story, there is a slave named Tobias, portrayed as a weasel who remains loyal to Lynchwater and is killed by Catcher's beautiful and righteous love interest, Thelma. Riley hates how cliché this story is, so Uncle Ruckus enters and reveals the true story of Catcher Freeman. According to Ruckus, Catcher was actually a feral man who hunted down escaped enslaved people like Tarzan, and the slaves under Lynchwater used Thelma to secure Catcher and tie him up so they could rebel against a much nicer and kinder Lynchwater. Tobias is still loyal to Lynchwater, but dies in the end alongside Lynchwater, and Catcher marries Thelma as a free man. Robert objects to Ruckus disrespecting his family heritage until Huey looks online and uncovers the true story of Catcher Freeman. Thelma was actually the Dark Knight that led an inspirational uprising after trying to escape from her master. Turns out, Catcher was Lynchwater's son, although he never claimed it, and was the first person to ever write a screenplay. Slaves aren't capable of reading and writing for fear of death, but Lynchwater loved the screenplay so much, so he agreed to help make a profit off of it, officially declaring Catcher as his son. To show his gratitude, Catcher betrays Thelma and the other slaves by warning his new dad of their rebellion. Suddenly, Thelma and the other slaves attack Lynchwater and his men, having lied to Catcher about the details. During the rebellion, Thelma and Lynchwater sword fight, and Catcher accidentally saves Thelma as he was trying to shoot her. You'll notice Catcher looks just like Tobias. Catcher plays it off like he meant to do that, and Thelma falls in love with Catcher after rejecting his advances previously. Thus, the legend of Catcher Freeman was born, but this version isn't as entertaining or ironic, so everyone hates the truth. It's a well-known fact that Riley doesn't like people that are gay, always calling everyone gay even if they're not. However, he can't help but love Gangstalicious' new song, Homies Over Hoes, unaware of what the lyrics mean.
Homies over hoes, do the homie.
Huey tries to explain it to him, but Riley doesn't believe Gangstalicious is gay, thinking he dreamt seeing another man kiss Gangstalicious. He starts wearing the new Gangstalicious gear, showing it off to Thugnificent and his crew, Lethal Interjection, and they even try to jump on this new bandwagon, oblivious to the gay tropes. Riley calls Gangstalicious to try to hook Thugnificent up with him, and he agrees to it. But before they hang up, Gangstalicious thanks Riley for keeping his big secret. Riley has no idea what he's talking about. Robert sees what his grandson is becoming and enlists the help of Uncle Ruckus. But all he does is say there is no hope for Riley. He tries to convert his Riley back into being straight, even getting a pimp named Slickback to explain to Riley what homies over hoes means. However, Riley still refuses to believe Gangstalicious is gay. Eventually, a former rap music dancer, Jessica Wondercheeks Ethelberg, reveals in her memoir that Gangstalicious is gay. Riley realizes that if he's a fan of Gangstalicious in his music, then that makes him gay. But he isn't, therefore Gangstalicious isn't gay.
I like Elton John. That does make me gay.
Is Elton John gay?
Yeah.
Lethal Interjection decides to abandon working with Gangstalicious, and they pretend to not be home when he arrives at Thugnificent's house. Riley is forced to finally concede that Gangstalicious is gay, and mourns the fact that he might be gay too. Robert comforts his potentially gay grandson. Riley confronts Gangstalicious, and realizing the world isn't ready for a gay rapper yet, lies about about him being gay, making Riley relieved. In The Hunger Strike, Huey decides to go on a hunger strike in a boycott of BET, as he knows all about BET's mission to poison the minds of black people. 3 days later, a hungry Huey gets a call from Rolo wanting to support his protest. Continuity-wise, this episode takes place before the S-word, so Huey doesn't have a reason to distrust Rolo yet. Huey agrees to enlist his support, and Rolo holds an electrifying rally raising awareness to Huey's protest of BET. Surprisingly, he inspires many people to join their cause with an extravagant concert voicing his outrage at BET. Huey expresses his admiration for how Rolo was able to unite the people, but Robert is skeptical Rolo is only doing this for his own personal gain. Robert turns out to be right, as Rolo refuses to not eat like he promised Huey he would, and creates a bad public image of their cause when he is caught with a stripper, not to mention everyone seeing right through his hustling.
Jesus walked amongst the people. Muhammad walked amongst the people. I am a people person, Huey. All the great prophets embraced the people.
You're embracing her butt, Reverend.
Rolo eventually sells Huey out when the BET president offers him a show. Huey is heartbroken that despite once again trying to fight for the truth, he couldn't change anything.
Granddad, what do you do when you can't do nothing?
You do what you can.
At least one good thing came out of this. BET gave Ruckus his own reality show. Wait, what? Ruckus's new show begins with him narrating his early morning routine, in which he wakes up at 4:45 a.m., claiming that it is 12 hours before most black people wake up, thanking the white man for the new day and apologizing for black people because they will never apologize for themselves. He then applies a skin cream composed of bleach and sulfur, trying to restore his, quote, beautiful white skin he presumably lost during his condition. He works his 47 jobs, which are jobs that mostly serve only white men. He argues that black people were better off before segregation and only made society worse when they were given freedom. At one of the schools he works at, he runs into Jasmine, waiting for her dad to come pick her up. Tom arrives wearing a kilt, and Ruckus makes fun of him for wearing one. Tom reveals that he's learned he's 32.5% Scottish after taking a DNA test, and encourages Ruckus to take one too. Ruckus gladly agrees to take one, especially after finding out the doctor would be white. Ruckus gets his test results back and discovers a shocking truth. He is 102% African with a 2% margin of error.
Why, Lord? Why, Lord? Why?
Now that he knows the truth that he's a 100% black man, Ruckus embraces being a black person by adopting the lifestyle of one, not waking up early and quitting all of his jobs, which makes the network furious because now they have no content to film. He seeks advice from the Freemans on how to be black, but he can't stop being the same old Ruckus he always was. Ruckus tries to accept his new black lifestyle, watching Tyler Perry movies and lusting over black women, but he can't accept it and tries to kill himself. The BET president of entertainment, Wedgie Rudlin, stops him and reminds him that they both hate the same thing, black people. Rudlin also convinced the doctor that took Ruckus's DNA test to take it again and realized they made a mistake. Ruckus is actually 50.07% white. Ruckus is overjoyed and resumes living his life serving the blessed white man. The opening to season 3, narrated by Werner Herzog, is a German documentary recounting the tales of when Republicans tried to link President Obama to radical leftists during his presidential campaign. One of these figures was Huey Freeman, who Obama labels as a domestic terrorist, despite them being MySpace friends. Werner meets with Huey, who tells Werner that if Obama wins, it will be the end of America. Riley expresses his opinion, saying he supports Obama because he's black, and if elected, then that will mean he can do whatever he wants. Werner then interviews Thugnificent, who can't believe a black man is going to be elected president. Tom and his wife Sarah, who are wearing shirts that say Obama Girl and Obama Guy, express their support for Obama, although Sarah seems to be more supportive of Obama's good looks than his ideals.
I just think it's about time we had a president who is smart and tall, and charming, and strong, and fit.
Just like your hubby?
This isn't about you, sweetie.
Ruckus, of course, voices his disapproval of Obama becoming president, and shows he still hasn't forgotten how to throw a brick at black people. Thugnificent then reveals he's decided to voice his support for Obama, not at all riding the bandwagon to promote his own public image. What follows is a music video with will.i.am called riding Obama. Robert holds an Obama election night party where everyone is certain the black struggle is officially over if Obama wins. Obama does win, and everyone celebrates. Everyone except Ruckus and Huey, but not for the same reason. At a car wash where the workers are promoting Obama, Huey isn't as excited as all the other black people that they finally have a black president and a black mob begins to form. Robert sacrifices the black-hating Ruckus to the mob and escapes with Huey and Riley. After trying to get tickets to the inauguration, Robert receives an envelope on his doorstep containing 2 VIP tickets to the inauguration, signed by Obama himself. Robert and Riley leave for the inauguration, while Huey decides to make an exodus to Canada with Ruckus, agreeing to go their separate ways once they get there. Unfortunately, Ruckus is arrested on suspicion of terrorism when they find his closet full of bricks, and can't give Huey his ride to Canada. At the inauguration, it turns out everyone else got the VIP tickets, and Robert is shot with a taser. Riley screams in vain for Obama to save them, but no one comes to help. In the present day, Robert, Riley, and Thugnificent have no more respect for Obama, but Sarah had a good time in Washington with Obama, hinting she had way too much fun with Obama. The episode ends with Huey retiring from speaking the truth. Robert wakes up one morning to find Dorothy being towed away. Robert rushes downstairs to inform the tow truck driver he's got the wrong house, and it's revealed he was supposed to be towing Thugnificent's car. Riley confronts Thugnificent and discovers his house and life a mess, as he hasn't been able to sell a good album lately and has been losing money left and right. Thugnificent reveals his Lethal Interjection crew abandoned him except for Leonard, who was always mistreated in the group but remained loyal to him when everyone left. Leonard works part-time at Wendy's and may just be Thugnificent's only source of income. During a radio show trying to promote his new album, Thugnificent badmouths a new upcoming rapper, Sergeant Gutter, which causes no one to buy his new album. Thugnificent tries to make an apology video calling himself by his real name, Otis, but only makes the situation worse. Sergeant Gutter then makes a response video where he calls Thugnificent old and even turns his mom against him. The IRS comes to take Thugnificent's house unless he comes up with a lot of money, and Thugnificent doesn't know what he's gonna do. Thankfully, Flownominal, Thugnificent's most loyal member of his old crew, stops by, revealing he moved on and got himself an office job. He urges Thugnificent to do the same, and he shows up all dressed for an interview. However, he accidentally gets Flownominal fired, as he never mentioned they were both rappers in his resume. With no other option to get money, Thugnificent decides to start selling crack, but neither he nor Leonard knows how to make it, and they end up selling something that looks nothing like it, with everyone wanting their money back. He and Leonard, along with Ed, enlist the help of crack expert Steve. However, Steve thought the meeting was about signing Thugnificent to another record label. Steve offers him $150,000 in advance, and Thugnificent graciously accepts. But Ed is furious he came all this way and didn't get any drugs, so he starts shooting, resulting in Thugnificent and Leonard running for their lives. I guess the deal is off. Thugnificent collapses outside the Freeman house and Robert takes him in, giving him a valuable life lesson on moving on. Thugnificent thanks Robert, apologizing for always being mean to him, and becomes Thugnificent no more. He now goes by his real name, Otis, and works as a UPS delivery driver, but still brings the same rapper energy wherever he goes. Moving on to a banned episode, The Story of Jimmy Rebel. The episode begins in 1967, where a nervous, up-and-coming country singer, Jimmy Rebel, wows a racist Southern crowd with his incredibly racist songs that come from the heart. Sadly to say, Jimmy Rebel is based on a real-life country singer, Johnny Rebel, who was also infamous for singing racist country songs. Flash forward to the present day, where it turns out Ruckus is the world's greatest Jimmy Rebel fan, as Jimmy's racist music inspired Ruckus's hatred for black people. Robert voices his disgust for his taste in music, but Ruckus decides to record his own black-hating music. Ruckus sends one of his own recordings to the great man himself over at Racist Records, but Jimmy is so impressed he visits Uncle Ruckus. However, he voices his disgust that Uncle Ruckus would be a black man, so Ruckus pretends he's not the real Uncle Ruckus. Regardless of the racism, the two of them bond like old friends, sharing their dislike for black people. Jimmy commends Ruckus on being an example of what all black people should be, adding that if all black people stopped complaining about everything, then the world wouldn't have any problems. Sadly, their fun day has come to an end, but they can't hug each other on account of Ruckus's black skin. Desperate to keep Jimmy as his friend, he has Robert pretend to be a white man, aka the real Uncle Ruckus. However, he can't keep the charade going for long when he sees just how racist Jimmy is, and Ruckus has to reveal who he is. Ironically, Jimmy reveals he always had a feeling and invites Ruckus to come back home with him. They record an album together, but the racist records board is afraid Ruckus recording them will ruin their racist image. Jimmy doesn't care, inviting Ruckus to sing with him on stage in front of the other racist people, giving him the same motivational pep talk he was given when he first sang. Jimmy sings the new song he and Ruckus wrote together, talking about how Jimmy's respect for one good black person, meaning Ruckus, and a fight breaks out when Jimmy invites people to meet Ruckus. Jimmy and Ruckus escape, and Jimmy realizes that despite being just as racist as any white man, Ruckus is still hated because he's black. Heartbroken from this realization, Ruckus decides to leave Jimmy and go back home. Ruckus apologizes to Robert, saying he was right, but then Jimmy shows up, saying there's more to life than singing about being racist to black people. This episode, Stinkmeaner 3: The Hateocracy, begins with three old people named Rufus, Esmeralda, and George stopping at a gas station, asking Ruckus if they know Robert Freeman. Ruckus refuses to help them, so they beat him up, shouting insults that would make Stinkmeaner proud. Esmeralda and George arrive at Huey and Riley's school, pretending to be their aunt and uncle. Huey and Riley realize something is up and try to leave, but they find them. An epic fight ensues on the playground, with the two old people being incredibly fit for their age. They are saved by the bell when students flood the playground. Meanwhile, Rufus finds Robert fishing and attacks him, but luckily, Robert manages to escape. Trying to make sense of everything, Huey discovers online that the three old people belong to Stinkmeaner's old crew, the Hateocracy, each possessing a great hatred for everyone and everything around them. They discovered that they all hated everyone else more than each other, and created a strong bond of hatred. Upon learning of Stinkmeaner's death, the three surviving members have come to exact their revenge on the Freemans.
Oh, this is terrible! What did I do to deserve this?
You killed.
What that got to do with anything?
Despite Huey's better judgment, Robert and Riley decide to take war to them. Riley tried to use Ed, but he was a useless idiot like always, so Huey suggests they hire Oprah's bodyguard, Bushido Brown. Bushido Brown accepts, but his demands to be in their service are too expensive, so he becomes too much to handle, and the Freemans wish the Hateocracy would just kill them already. Robert fires Bushido Brown right as the Hateocracy arrives, so Robert is forced to double his fee in order to keep him, and finally offers them a worthy opponent. However, Rufus decapitates him, so Huey and Robert try to end the conflict by talking things out and apologizing for killing Stinkmeaner. Ironically, Rufus reveals they weren't here to exact revenge, but just needed an excuse to hate something. Thankfully, the police arrive and arrest the Hateocracy, saving the day. In the episode Smokin' with Cigarettes, we are introduced to one of Riley's friends, Lamilton Tayshawn. Lamilton is a bad kid. He recklessly drives his grandma's car, hurts people, and smokes cigarettes. But what makes him terrifying is he loves to hurt people, like some sort of serial killer.
Because it's fun. It's fun to do bad things.
Robert punishes Riley for hanging out with Lamilton, but Riley loves being with Lamilton because he doesn't want to be normal like everyone else. Lamilton's grandma makes him apologize to the Freemans for almost getting Riley arrested, and his grandma argues that Lamilton is not a bad kid, adding that Riley is the best friend Lamilton's ever had. Despite his grandma's heartfelt speech, Robert still refuses to let Riley and him be friends. But that doesn't stop Riley. He and Lamilton continue to get in trouble, and their shenanigans attract the attention of Dr. Dumas, a school counselor who looks very similar to another certain doctor who dealt with another child delinquent. Dumas visits the Freemans, explaining he's been studying Lamilton for years, warning them of how dangerous he is. Dumas suggests they kill Lamilton before it's too late, but they can only have a strong case against Lamilton if he harms an innocent person, and Riley is with him right now. At his house, Lamilton shows Riley his grandma's gun, pointing it at Riley like it's nothing. Riley finally realizes Lamilton is crazy and decides not to see him anymore. However, Lamilton finds Riley and threatens him to still hang out with him, forcing him to help him rob a house. But the owner's dog hears them and Lamilton mercilessly kills it with his gun. They run away, and this time Riley's not intimidated by Lamilton's threats to keep being friends. The next day, Lamilton is arrested for killing the dog, officially putting him in the system. Dumas reveals to be the one who told on them, but didn't mention his name to the cops. So now, Riley thinks Lamilton thinks he snitched on him.
Holy
Unfortunately, Lamilton is let go as there wasn't enough evidence to detain him, so Dumas fears for Riley's life, telling Robert and Huey to meet him at the school since Riley is in detention. Lamilton gets to Riley first and is forced to fight him as they battle their way up to the school's roof. Eventually, Riley punches Lamilton over the edge, catching him before he falls. Lamilton apologizes for everything, but Riley struggles to pull him up because he's too fat. Robert, Huey, and Dumas arrive, and Dumas forces Riley to let Hamilton go. Lamilton lives, and Dumas tries to keep killing him. Robert, Huey, and Riley leave as the situation is no longer their problem. Moving on to the episode Pause, we're introduced to famous actor and crossdresser Winston Jerome, who's basically this series' version of Tyler Perry. Robert, who tried to pursue an acting career back in the day, hears about a casting call for Jerome's new play with a leading role perfect for him. Riley calls him out for doing something gay, saying pause and no homo every time Robert says something that sounds gay. Robert believes that what he's doing isn't gay and goes to the casting call. There, he meets Jerome and impresses him so much that he gets the part. That is, after he auditions shirtless and has lotion rubbed all over his body in front of Jerome and his posse of shirtless, beautiful men. Jerome reveals he has an incredible fixation with Jesus, pause, wanting to spread his message, pause, and maybe loves him a little too much, pause. He makes Robert get on his knees and accept Jesus, renouncing everything else, including Ice Cube and Robert's favorite movie, Friday. Robert arrives at Jerome's compound to rehearse the new play, where Jesus is heavily praised and everyone prances around like a mindless soul. Outside communication is also prohibited, and if you haven't guessed by now, this sounds a lot like some sort of cult. Huey tries to explain this to Robert, but Robert is so determined to get his big break after never achieving it his whole life that he refuses to believe it. Jerome starts showing signs of attraction to an oblivious Robert, and Jerome promises to give Robert all the beautiful woman he could ever have if he agrees to stay and give himself to him. During rehearsal, Jerome doesn't like Robert's acting, so he prays to Jesus, and Jesus tells him that the scene requires Jerome and Robert to kiss. Pause. Missing their granddad, Huey and Riley stage a rescue to save Robert, but are defeated by Jerome's greasy, beautiful men. Robert appreciates his grandkids for caring about him, but emphasizes how important this is for him. Huey understands and lets Robert embarrass himself. The play premieres and Robert manages to avoid kissing Jerome. However, all the beautiful women he was promised turned out to be a lie, and Jerome just wanted to have with Robert, and understandably, Robert gives him the finger and tells him to stick it up his butt, but makes sure to come back and say no homo. Huey and Riley break the TV again by throwing the remote into it, and Robert is about to punish them when he has a heart attack from all the stress and anger. Huey and Riley drag Robert to the doctor, and after some tests, the doctor tells Robert that if he doesn't get his stress under control, he will die.
My life is more stressful than most people. My one grandson is a domestic terrorist, and the other one is a public menace.
The doctor gives Robert an enormous amount of various stress medications to lower his stress. Otis delivers the package containing all the pills, and he wonders why Robert needs all of these pills. Robert tells him it's for his stress, and Otis reveals he suffers the same condition. However, the only medication he takes is weed. Robert objects to the idea of smoking weed, having heard all about the dangers of it his whole life, but decides to try it out in secret. Immediately, Robert's stress is lowered, and he starts acting like a completely different person.
God damn, that was the best churros I ever had in my life.
Huey and Riley begin to notice Robert's sudden chill behavior and can't find any reason for his symptoms from the medication he was supposed to take. Otis then invites Robert to meet his supplier, where he gives Robert some powerful weed that makes him want to play bongos naked. Huey, Riley, Tom, and Jasmine walk in on Robert naked, and poor innocent Jasmine is scarred for life. Robert is ashamed of what he's become and promises to never smoke weed again, which he breaks the very next day. He gets pulled over for driving too slow and is charged with driving under the influence of marijuana. Robert pleads not guilty on the grounds that Obama legalized weed. The judge has no idea what he's talking about and informs Robert, after looking it up, that they don't live in a state that has legalized weed. The judge drops the charges on the condition that Robert stops smoking weed. Robert is upset he can't smoke anymore, so Tom introduces Robert to the legal cause and solution to all of life's problems: alcohol. It doesn't go well for him. The next day, Robert and Otis discover the police raiding their supplier's house, confiscating all the weed. Robert decides to protest against not being able to legally smoke weed, just like he used to do in the old day, but nobody cares. However, it turns out Robert's supplier got released after posting bail, so Robert decides to end his protest, but he's already getting arrested. The judge is not pleased to see Robert again, and Robert reveals he's going to move him and his boys to California so he can smoke weed legally. But he has to do that after he does 3 weeks of house arrest, 2 years of probation, and mandatory drug testing, and some community service. In The Color Ruckus, we finally learn about Uncle Ruckus's origin story. In a scene that parodies the film The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, Ruckus's white father rushes home to discover his son, Ruckus, has been born with an incurable skin disease that'll make his skin darker and darker with each passing day until he resembles that of a black man. In a fit of mad grief, Ruckus's father attempts to drown him, but is chased away by a policeman, forced to leave him on the doorstep of a black family. Bunny and Mr. Ruckus find baby Ruckus with white skin and a large black birthmark and decide to adopt him. In the present, Ruckus's grandmother Nellie shows up at his house unannounced and reveals that she's dying, but refuses to die in Ruckus's father's house. Because Nellie is an unbearable woman, Ruckus asks for more work to do at the Freeman house, and he's pressured to continue telling his life story. By the time Ruckus was 3, his skin disease had spread all over his body, making him indistinguishable from any black child. His adoptive drunken father, Mr., would always take out his hatred of white people on him, as Ruckus was technically white, but he would always find comfort in Bunny as she tried to raise him to be a good man. One day, Nellie showed up, telling him the same thing he told him just now. Mr. couldn't bear living with Nellie, and would shortly after kick Ruckus out of the house. Lo and behold, Nellie does the same thing to the Freemans, getting really comfortable in Robert's favorite chair. Robert tries to get her to leave, but she threatens to cut him with a razor. Suddenly, Ruckus's family shows up, whom Ruckus hasn't seen in 50 years. They're here to watch Nellie finally die, but now that they are here, she doesn't want to die. Ruckus learns about how successful his brother Daryl and his older brother Darrell have been, working under their white bosses and living with their white wives, which makes Mr. more furious than ever. Mr. insults Ruckus, revealing that they made up his skin condition and that he's always been a black person. He only hated him because he was their first kid and he never wanted to be a father. Heartbroken by this revelation, Ruckus recounts the time Mr. threw him out of the house in a scene that parodies The Color Purple, and we see all the moments that gave Ruckus his distinctive look.
That's like Academy Award nominated sad.
Nellie finally dies. Ruckus's family finally leaves. Ruckus is tasked with digging her grave, and Daryl finds his older brother Darrell to help him, where they reveal all the abuse Mr. got from the white man, justifying his hatred for them. During the funeral, Ruckus finally stands up to his dad, causing Mr. to attack Ruckus, but his back snaps from all the abuse he received when he was younger, and he falls backwards into Nellie's grave, breaking his neck. Ruckus has a new respect for his family and where he came from, and decides to have sympathy for black people upon now realizing his dislike for them came from his dad. In the season 3 finale, It's Going Down, Huey gets a surprise visit from the White Shadow, who heard about Huey quitting standing up for the truth. He nudges Huey to believe that he's not actually done in this fight, and warns him that the CTA, Central Terrorist Agency, are now after him. Huey asks why now, and then the White Shadow vanishes. Meanwhile, Ed and Jin are carrying a suspicious briefcase towards Onceler Plaza, where they are greeted by Dan the security man. Dan lets them through to the elevator that takes them to the basement, where they reveal a time bomb in the briefcase. They set it to detonate in 24 hours and leave. At the CTA, Jack Flowers, is informed about a terrorist with racial affiliation, and it turns out to be Huey. The CTA director orders Jack to put him down, despite Jack's PTSD of kicking terrorists in the nuts repeatedly. On the way back to Ed's house, their car gets a flat tire, and they seek help from the Freemans nearby. Huey still hasn't been able to convince anyone in his family that the government is after him, so he steals Robert's wallet and buys a train ticket to throw the CTA off his tracks. Jin gives a status report to Onceler, who tells them to get out because the CTA agents are closing in on the Freeman home. Jin and Ed leave, but Ed accidentally leaves his iPhone behind, containing all the information for their plan. Huey makes it to Uncle Ruckus's place, kidnaps him, and steals his bus. Meanwhile, CTA agents storm the Freeman house looking for Huey, but all they find is a sleeping Robert and Riley who somehow stay asleep during everything. Jack is informed about the train ticket and leaves, but not before telling his men to search the house thoroughly. However, satellite footage shows Ruckus's bus moving 100 miles an hour down the highway, and Jack deduces it's Huey. An epic highway chase ensues, and Huey is forced to surrender when he comes across a roadblock of tanks. On the bright side, Robert and Riley finally see on the news that Huey had been right about the government being after him.
Do you want me to kick you in the nuts?
No.
Do you want me to kick you in the nuts?
No.
The CTA director stops Jack interrogating Huey, revealing that they found Ed's iPhone, revealing Ed's plan to blow up Onceler Plaza is the real threat. Jack is ordered to arrest Onceler and Ed, but then the director informs them the mission is aborted for unknown reasons. Jack apologizes to Huey for mistaking his identity and decides to go rogue. Huey and Ruckus head to Onceler Plaza to fight Dan, while Jack fights Ed and Jin at a warehouse containing Dan the security guard merchandise that would have painted him as a hero. The bomb detonates and Huey and Ruckus drag Dan out of the empty building as it explodes. Jack defeats Ed and Jin and tells Huey to meet him at the Onceler estate. There, Onceler reveals he did this to make more money and has immunity that comes all the way from Obama. Knowing there's nothing he can do, Jack tells Huey not to stop fighting for the truth. Huey tells Jack to not waste his life trying to change the future, so Jack arrests Ed instead. Robert and Riley are happy Huey is alive and vow to listen to him more. Stinkmeaner returns, or at least his clone does, and was given instructions before the real Stinkmeaner died to exact revenge on Robert. It turns out this clone has some enhancements which makes Stinkmeaner very happy. Stinkmeaner wrecks Robert's car in the exact same place he did before, prompting Robert to fight him, but once again Stinkmeaner publicly humiliates him. During the fight, people watch and record the fight on their phones instead of helping. The cops show up and arrest Robert instead of Stinkmeaner because, technically, Robert started the fight. Robert is allowed to go home, where Riley reveals his fight is already going viral online. Robert decides to train to fight him again, so he can salvage his dignity by recording the fight and posting it online, because that definitely worked last time. Huey refuses to train Robert, as he seems to be the only one who remembers what happened last time, but Robert is still determined to fight Stinkmeaner. Stinkmeaner then FaceTimes Robert, goading him to a rematch, calling him a coward if he chickens out. That night, Robert has a dream where he recreates the Dagobah scene from Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back, and when Vader's helmet explodes, Robert sees he's been fighting himself. The day of the fight, Robert calls the police before confronting Stinkmeaner, and informs him that he doesn't want to fight him. The crowd boos Robert even more, and the cops show up to arrest Stinkmeaner. Certain his troubles with Stinkmeaner are finally over, Onceler reveals he bribed the judge to drop the case and release Stinkmeaner, as he will not tolerate snitches in his neighborhood. Onceler invites Stinkmeaner into Robert's home, since he technically owns it, and asks for he and Robert to have one more fight, since they are making a lot of money with their viral fights. Robert refuses, but doesn't have a choice. Riley gives Robert some advice on harnessing all his anger and rage against Stinkmeaner, and inadvertently turns him into Stinkmeaner. Huey and Riley stop Robert before he starts a fight with a complete stranger, similar to what Stinkmeaner first did to Robert, and Riley realizes he may have gone too far. The big fight takes place, and this time Robert has the upper hand. He mercilessly beats Stinkmeaner and is about to kill him when Huey talks some sense into him, telling him to learn from his mistakes and not fall into dumb patterns like they always do. Robert lets Stinkmeaner live, telling him if he comes near him again, he will file for a restraining order.
Will you please go with somebody else?
Sure, Robert. All you had to do was...
3 months later, Stinkmeaner figures out how to annoy Robert without violating the restraining order. Maybe he should have just killed him. In the show's finale, Riley's habit of calling people gay finally comes back to him when he calls a gay dancing student gay at school. Riley becomes a national bully, as he offends people no matter what he says. Riley defends his actions, saying the kid was gay, so why should people be mad for speaking the truth? Just then, Rollo shows up, warning the Freemans that the gay community will keep protesting until they extort them for some money, kind of like what Rollo does. He wants to help them because he needs the attention after his sitcom got cancelled.
Why are you wearing so much pink?
Taking it back from the homo.
Walter Sweetlove, the president of Yes Homo, peacefully visits the Freeman home where he proves Rollo right when he tells Robert the only way they can reconcile their differences is if they give the gay community some donations. Robert refuses, so Walter offers another proposal. Have Riley join their youth campaign because he's made being gay look urban and hip. Sadly, Riley doesn't have a choice but to say yes, so Riley doesn't take any of the counseling or PSA filming seriously, nor does he take his public apology seriously. Robert tries to apologize for Riley's behavior towards gay people, calling Riley special. The public interprets this as Riley being someone who has special needs, and Rollo paints Riley as the victim, making Walter and the gay community look bad. This causes the special needs community to fight back against the gay community, and Filbert Slowlove, the president and national director of the Specially Abled Alliance Against Defamation, or SAAAD, to confront the Freemans. He figures out that Riley isn't special and demands the exact same thing Walter wanted from them. However, they have no more money, so they can't give him anything. So Filbert talks to the PR community and decides to have Riley be their poster kid to promote the Special Olympics. Riley doesn't have a choice, since the alternative is being gay, so he races in the Special Olympics. However, at the starting line, Riley can't bear to be around the other special needs kids, calling them R-words. Apparently, that's a more offensive word than calling a gay person the F-slur, so all the other special needs kids start beating up Riley. He gets free and runs for his life from the kids, giving them the poster shot he promised them. And that brings us to the end of the Boondocks. I love this show and its ability to paint political truth, the satirical showcasings of stereotypes that it has, and its ability to educate people about this culture. There was talk of a season 5 for some time, but production was sadly cancelled in 2022. And with the death of John Witherspoon, the voice of Robert, in 2019, it's highly unlikely the show will continue. But regardless, thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out our other ones. And we will see you next time. Peace out.